Okay, so for today we're going to talk about a particular artist. His name is Vasily Kandinsky, and what he was all about was creating abstract art. Now, abstract art, true abstract art, does not have recognizable images. In fact, it's void of those kind of things. And what Kandinsky worked on is he worked with three basic principles. His first principle was color. And what he said is that colors represent feelings. So anytime he used a color in his painting, it was to represent some type of a feeling. So for example, if you wanted to say happy, what would be a color to represent that? A lot of people might say bright blue, yellow, bright green, and so on and so forth. That is up to you to decide. Whatever color you think is happy or represents that. What if we did sad? Maybe gray, black, dark blue. And so that becomes the representation for sad using color. He also could do, say, what if we did mad? Red, black, and you know what? We're going to do a dark blue too. So some colors can be repeated. But one thing about this, if you notice, blue is in each of these. So when you go to add color to your picture, these all should be different. This blue should look different than this one, and this one should look a little bit different than this. Maybe this one is a mixture of blue and gray or blue and black. But all of his colors represent exactly that, a feeling. And you're going to do the same thing in your picture. So every time you use a color, it's got to represent some type of feeling that goes along with your picture. Not only did he use color, but he used line. And so how he used line is as follows. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a color. We're going to do calm, okay? So I'm going to pick a calm color. What I think a calm color is, I think it's something like this. It's a nice light color. Have you ever heard of the calm of Lake Erie or the calm of the ocean? Straight across. So the more change of direction in your line, the more emotion you are showing. So if I said that's calm, and then what if we say we want to get all of a sudden that goes like that. That's the ocean, and then it's getting wavier and wavier, and look what's happening. The lines are increasing. So anytime you have more motion in your line, the more you are showing emotion. The more motion, change of direction in your line, the more emotion you are showing. What if we said angry? What would an angry line be? Well, I'm going to do red, and this is what most people do. Now, that is true. We got a lot of change in direction, right? But angry isn't an even thing. It's out of control thing. So your change of direction should be going in all different directions. Here's how you can think about it also. This is a recognizable thing. It's a heartbeat monitor. The more change of direction, the more you're alive. When you get to the flat line, that's as calm as you get because unfortunately, you're no longer with us. So again, change of direction means more emotion. So every time you use a line, you draw a line, you're going to put it in color. And that color and that line are going to represent the same type of feeling or emotion that you are trying to portray. He also used shape. Now, shape is similar to line, but how you want to think of shape is, and some people have a hard time with this, but we've talked about amorphic shapes when you were in 5th grade. This is where you can really use some amorphic shapes. I like to do this. I would start off with a line. So say I want to do angry. There's my angry line. All I'm going to now do simply is connected. Now I have an angry shape. If it's a happy shape, what could be a happy shape? A lot of people think circles are type of happy shapes. Okay, so it's going to be up to you, but every time you draw a shape, you're going to color it in, and whatever color you choose and the type of shape is going to represent that same emotion or feeling. So if it's angry, I'd like to see angry shapes, angry lines, angry colors. If you're happy, what do you consider happy shapes? What do you consider happy colors? And what kind of lines would you consider to be happy? And when you do this, you're going to put it all together in one picture. So here's kind of the idea of what we're doing. All the colors and the lines and the shape represent the same feeling, idea, thought, or emotion. And you cannot draw a recognizable image. It's only line, shape, and color. So here's some of his artwork. So as you can see, notice different thickness of lines. You have some very thick lines, you have some very skinny lines. Notice the different size shapes. Things are overlapping. Just like when we did your Amorphic project in 5th grade, you need to overlap shapes, overlap lines, have large areas, smaller areas, vary things. But all your colors need to represent some type of emotion or feeling. Again, you can really see the change in the thickness of lines. He kind of repeats the same lines over and over. He just changes the direction and how thick or thin they are. So again, but overlapping things, large areas, smaller areas, all the colors and lines need to represent the same feeling or emotion. Again, you can see how big and thick these lines are, a bit skinnier, and then these are much more skinny. And again, everything should kind of represent that same idea or feeling. If you were to represent a person, this is actually from Kandinsky's book. These are his idea of people. Now, I want you to think about this. If you think about a person and you're drawing something happy because you're thinking, oh, I like the amusement park. Don't draw a person. What you want to do is think less is best. So if I was going to do this, I might change this because that looks a little bit too much like a person. So what I would do is I'm going to come in, I'm just going to make some of these spots darker. And then I would actually get rid of some of this. So now, that would represent my person. So I really have less information to work with. So again, if you're trying to represent something or some kind of a thing like that, don't let it be recognizable. Because you can't actually do people in there, but again, it's how you portray them. This is a picture of Kandinsky's. Notice, this is a horse. Here's the jockey, and all he has for the jockey is a line without arms or anything and just color. And this squiggle right here represents his leg, and all it is a shape of color. So again, when you do this, you are going to try and do line, shape, and color only to represent the same thought, feeling, or emotion. This is also what you want to consider. Do you have different size shapes? Do you have different thickness of lines? Are your things overlapping? Now, when we do this project in school, we actually will be listening to music because Kandinsky listened to music when he would do some of his stuff, and the music made him react the way he did. So that's how he came up with his lines, his colors, and his things. If you want to try that at home, feel free. I would suggest the music that I usually play in class does not have any words to it. And if it does have words, it's in a foreign language, so you're not sitting there listening to the music and singing the song that you know. Instrumental music works the best. And we will actually listen to music and we will draw a picture according to how that music makes you feel. If you don't want to do that at home or you don't have access to that, that's fine. You know what? Just pick an emotion. Say, I want to do a picture that represents happy. I want to do one that represents sad or angry or excited, whatever, or calm. It doesn't matter. But make sure your lines, your shapes, and your colors all represent that same emotion and feeling. I want to show you two examples from some prior students. There's one, and everything is kind of, you see the different sizes, things are overlapping. Now we did this in paints, you guys are going to be doing it in markers, crayons, and colored pencils. And here's another student's example. This one was actually had to do with being out in the wilderness, or not the wilderness, but in the jungle kind of setting, or a beach area. I think that's why the blue was down there. Tropical kind of idea. So again, it's up to you. Nothing recognizable as far as images, line, shape, and color only. I'm going to do an example, and I will have that for you just so you can see a kind of what it might look like. And I'll be back in just a minute. Okay, so this is your, for our Kandinsky project, which is our abstract one dealing with colors, lines, and shapes. Remember, every color you use, every line, every shape should represent a feeling, emotion, or thought. And again, nothing recognizable. Now, how I want you to start this is, I want you to work on just a regular size piece of paper, any kind of, even if it's smaller than that. What you want to do is come up with a rough draft. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this while music is playing. This is how we're going to do it here in class, and I'm going to play one of the music pieces that we will be listening to. And this is your rough draft. The reason we have a rough draft is just to come up with a quick idea. If you're not going to listen to music, then just come up with your idea. But again, you want it on a small version because then we're going to transfer it onto a larger version. So I'm going to go and get the music going in just a second, and I'll be back and show you how this is going to go. Again, it's going to be lines, shape, and color. Every color represents a feeling or emotion. Every line does the same. Every shape. Shapes need to be colored in, and you want to consider having different thickness of line, different sizes of shapes, so on and so forth. All right, so this is my basic example. If you noticed, what I was doing is I was also turning the paper while I was working. Now again, if you have music, I encourage you to play something. If you notice, the only words you heard were at the very end, and it was just instrumental music. If you want to just use the music I provided you, go ahead. You can do that. But I want you to work. Notice I worked really quick. I didn't spend a lot of time making everything super neat. This is a rough draft. So now what I would do is I'm going to take this and I would recreate it on the large 18 by 24 piece of paper. And then that's where you really spend the time on your techniques as far as making things neat. I would draw it out in regular pencil and then add color. Again, I have things that overlap. I have different size shapes. I have different types of lines, different thickness, things going off the paper, overlapping. I don't have areas of dead space. I've used the entire piece of paper. So again, work on any small piece of paper, just a regular, even a piece of printer paper, or you could use notebook paper. Doesn't matter. Just come up with a rough draft first, and then you redraw this and enlarge it onto the large paper. When you do the enlargement, which I'm not going to do, but when you do that, this is where then you can decide what types of shading techniques do you want to do. Do you want to do light to dark? I encourage you to mixing colors. Instead of just leaving this blue, maybe on my final, I might take and mix green with it, and I can combine colors or do some shading from light to dark, mixing color into color. You could do textures by doing hatching or cross hatching. For your final, I did mine in crayon. For your rough draft, I would do crayon to start with. For your final, I would incorporate crayon, markers, and color pencils, because then you can decide. Because right now, everything's about the same value. I don't want to have that on my final. Maybe I have some things that I shade in lighter than others. Maybe I have things that are really, really dark. Again, maybe I have some areas that are textured and have no color. And you want to leave the background white. Okay, so it's just shading in the lines, shapes, and using color. But again, start off with a small piece of paper, do your rough draft, and then once you're done and you have something you like, then enlarge it. And again, this is a representation of that music, which I kind of thought was kind of happy. I have some bright colors. My black lines, if you notice, that's kind of an idea of people dancing. And there's motion, there's things going in all different directions, and I have bright colors because that's the feeling I got from that particular type of music. So again, that's our Kandinsky abstract art. Do a small rough draft, and then you take this and redraw it onto your large paper, and then take the time to shade in everything nice and neat. Enjoy.